Timothy, commonly referred to as Tim by his buddies, glanced at his cell phone upon receiving a message from Candace, or Candy, as she preferred to be called, his spouse of half a decade. He had just secured a service contract with a major company in California with branches across the nation. He anticipated that his boss, Jake Hudson, would be thrilled as this contract signified significant expansion for his IT firm and a considerable boost in his salary. Perhaps now, he mused, he and Candy could finally begin their planned journey of starting a family. Yet he harbored concerns, which had been nagging at him since he and his wife joined Jake on a camping trip a little over a week ago. There was a subtle change in her demeanor upon their return from the trip. It seemed her mind was preoccupied with something else most of the time, and she had become slightly irritable with him. However, there was more. Upon returning home and tossing their clothes in the hamper, he noticed something unusual in the gusset of one of her underwear. Picking them up, he observed that something had solidified with a distinctive odor. Suddenly, realization struck him, and he felt as though his entire world had crumbled. He didn't know whose fluid was in her underwear, but he vowed to uncover the truth. Aware of an upcoming trip to the West Coast, he consulted a lawyer to explore his options. If Candy was indeed unfaithful, he reasoned, it would spell the end of their marriage. "Are you certain your wife is being unfaithful?" Ruby Hawkins inquired. Ruby, specializing in family law and divorce, came recommended by a friend who had recently divorced due to infidelity. "Not entirely," he admitted. "But I need certainty, and if she is, I want a divorce." "Well," Ruby began, "most divorces in this state are no fault. You could file on grounds of infidelity, but you'll require solid evidence." "Like photos or video?" Tim queried. "Exactly," Ruby affirmed. "If you wish, I can have an investigator monitor her activities to confirm." "Please do," Tim replied. "What should I expect in terms of divorce proceedings?" "Given she earns roughly as much as you do with her teaching job, there's a chance we can avoid alimony," Ruby explained. "With no real estate or children, assets would likely be split evenly. Your retirement stays yours and so does hers. If she is indeed cheating, we'll use that as grounds and leverage any evidence we gather for a favorable outcome. I'll start compiling the necessary paperwork, and we'll proceed once we have evidence." "All right," Tim agreed. "Go ahead. I'll be away for about 3 days, which I reckon is when she might act." Ruby enlisted her investigator, Marvin Johnson, who proposed Tim install a tracking app on Candy's phone. Additionally, he provided Tim with a device for recording landline calls and an audio recorder to conceal in Candy's purse. Tim despised resorting to such measures, but felt compelled to uncover the truth. There were other indicators, too. Since the camping trip, Jake seemed more arrogant and disdainful than usual, as if he held some secret knowledge. During the week, Candy drove him to the airport, bidding him farewell with a kiss. He assured her he would call her that night after dinner. She responded affirmatively and wished him safe travels. On the first night away, as agreed, he called Candy, only to be surprised when she mentioned she'd be working as a waitress at a party Jake was hosting that evening. According to her, there was an emergency as one of the original waitstaff fell ill, and Jake requested her assistance. Tim hadn't been informed of such plans by Jake. Candy explained that Jake promised her $150 for the evening, which would be helpful since she wouldn't be returning to work for a couple of weeks. Tim knew classes would resume soon, and he understood she could use the extra money, but he felt uneasy. He questioned her decision, to which she replied affirmatively, expressing her love for him before saying goodnight. After ending the call, a knot of worry formed in his gut. He decided to phone the investigator to inform them about Candy's new job. "Just wanted to inform you, Candy's been asked to waitress for a party at Jake Hudson's house," Tim stated. Marvin confirmed that they would keep him posted, and Tim thanked him before ending the call. The next day, he called Candy's cell but got no answer. He also tried the house phone, reaching only the answering machine. Surely she didn't spend the night with Jake, he thought. However, his hopes were shattered when he received an email from Marvin that afternoon. "Candy spent the night at Hudson's house, and she's still there," the email read. "And she was quite busy the night before. I've attached a couple of photos, but I want to warn you they're pretty graphic. I'll give you my full report when you return." Tim opened the attachments and his heart sank. There was his beloved wife of 5 years, engaged in explicit acts. One involved Jake, while the others were colleagues he once considered friends. The second photo showed her sprawled on the floor. Tears streamed down his face as his hands trembled. He couldn't believe what he saw. Timothy, known as Tim to his friends, tried calling her phone again, but it went straight to voicemail. He also dialed the house phone, encountering only the answering machine. Leaving no message, he sought solace in the hotel bar. The next morning, he checked the tracker, confirming Candy's phone remained at Jake's house. Marvin verified this assumption with an email containing more photos, including a disturbing scene involving Jake, his son Mike, and others from Jake's IT firm. He once trusted them all, but not anymore. He didn't recognize the other 3 men and assumed they were Mike's friends. Concluding his business in California, Tim left the hotel, contract in hand, and caught an early flight home. Arriving home, he noticed Candy's car was gone. Checking the tracker, her phone remained at Jake's. Inside, he changed clothes and called Ruby's office. To his surprise, Ruby's receptionist informed him that she was available and could see him that afternoon. Tim called Candy's cell and was startled when she answered, sounding out of breath. He asked her where she was, and she claimed to be at home catching up. Shocked by her blatant lie, Tim informed her that he was done in California and on his way home. Candy expressed excitement at his return and suggested that she pick him up at the airport when he lands. However, Tim declined, telling her not to bother and that he would grab a taxi. After ending the call, he wondered if she noticed his lack of affection. Shaking his head, he left the house to see Ruby. Candy glanced at her phone after Tim hung up. His usual "I love you" sign-off was absent, and his tone seemed distant. She had intended to leave after the first night, but the allure of being between Jake and his son was irresistible. She justified it to herself as something she owed to her own desires. She assumed it would all end once classes resumed, and Tim would remain unaware. Thus, she spent the following day and night with Jake and his son, Mike. While Jake briefly left for work the next day, Mike kept her occupied, and even arranged for friends to join for a group encounter. Upon Jake's return, she was in bed with Mike on Jake's bed. Joining in, Jake suggested sending Tim away more frequently. "I have classes soon," she explained, "so I won't be available on weekdays. I can't risk it while Tim's at home." "Why not?" Jake jested. "Perhaps he'd enjoy seeing you with other men for a change." They chuckled at the notion. Admitting her attachment to Jake, she affirmed her love for Tim and reluctance to hurt him. Jake proposed arranging for Tim's absence over weekends, allowing her to spend time with them. "But Tim will find out eventually," she voiced. "He's not oblivious." "Don't fret," Jake assured, reaching for his camera. "I'll handle him. Just one condition," he added. "What's that?" she inquired. "You won't be in bed with him anymore," Jake declared. "You're ours now, got it?" "How do I manage that?" she questioned. "You'll think of something," Jake dismissed. "Use an excuse like a headache." "I'll try," she acquiesced. Unaware of the surveillance, they remained oblivious to a van across the street with minicams recording their actions. Tim's devastation upon seeing the evidence Marvin compiled was profound. In addition to photos, there were videos showcasing her acts with multiple men, far beyond what she would do with him. His love for her evaporated as he pondered her behavior. Ruby attempted to console him, but his anguish persisted. How could she change so drastically after 5 years? What had he done to deserve this? And Jake, whom he once considered a friend, now revealed his true nature. "I'll initiate divorce proceedings," Ruby suggested, citing infidelity. "We could also file for alienation of affection against Jake and your colleagues. Although these cases are often challenging, I believe we can secure a favorable settlement." "Do whatever's necessary," Tim responded. "Just don't make any reckless moves," Ruby cautioned. "I don't want to bail you out of jail." "I won't," Tim assured. "When will the papers be ready?" "I'll have everything prepared in a couple of days," Ruby assured him. "Meanwhile, try to maintain normalcy with your wife." "I'm not a great actor," Tim confessed. "I won't touch her again. Who knows what she's caught from all those men," Tim declared. "Tell her you're not feeling well," Ruby suggested. "That should buy you some time." Tim agreed with a nod. "Yeah, okay," he replied. "Thanks." Leaving Ruby's office, he felt somewhat relieved but still queasy. In his car, Tim realized he couldn't continue working for Jake or being around the men who betrayed him. He found the number he needed in his contacts and dialed it, hoping for the best. "Carlson," the voice answered. "John, it's Tim Burns," Tim said. "Tim, how are you, my friend?" John asked. "Not great," Tim admitted. "Listen, is that position at Empire still available?" John Carlson had long sought to recruit Tim, but Tim's loyalty to Jake had kept him from considering it. Now, that loyalty was gone. "Absolutely," John confirmed. "Are you finally joining an established company?" "Something like that," Tim replied. "I've realized I can't stay at my current job." "I'm sorry to hear that," John sympathized. "Can I help?" "Just give me a job," Tim requested. "I'll work as hard for you as I did for Jake." "Done," John agreed. "How about starting on Monday?" "Perfect," Tim accepted. "Great. Why don't you and your wife join us for dinner tonight? Rose will make her famous lasagna, and we can discuss your compensation package," John proposed. "I'd love to, but I can't bring candy," Tim declined. "Oh?" John inquired. "What's wrong?" "I'd rather not discuss it over the phone," Tim said. "But I can explain more tonight." "Of course," John understood, sounding concerned. "Rose is a counselor. Maybe she can help." "That sounds good," Tim acknowledged. "I'll let Rose know. Can you come by at 6:30? John asked. "Absolutely," Tim confirmed. 6:30 it is. "Thanks, buddy." "My pleasure," John replied. Feeling a weight lifted, Tim drove home. Not finding Candy there, he entered, showered, changed, and penned his resignation letter. Candy arrived around 5 p.m., noticing Tim at his computer. She leaned in for a kiss, but he turned and she landed on his cheek. "Is everything okay?" she asked, surprised. "Not really," Tim admitted. "I'm not feeling well. Maybe it's jet lag. I'll sleep on the futon tonight." "Sleeping out?" she queried. "Where are you going?" "I have dinner plans," Tim answered. "Are you meeting someone?" she asked, sounding concerned. "Are you accusing me of cheating?" Tim countered. "No, I've never cheated on you, and I never will. Can you say the same?" She recoiled in horror, doubting if he knew. "He couldn't possibly know," she reassured herself. "No, I can't," she replied. Tim remained unconvinced. "So, how was your trip to California?" she asked, attempting to change the subject. "Successful," he replied. "And how did your gig at Jake's house go?" "It went smoothly," she responded. "Even though it was challenging, it was still enjoyable." "I can imagine," he remarked, his voice devoid of emotion. Glancing at his watch, he decided it was time to leave. "I should get going," he informed her, saving his work and shutting down his computer. Standing up, he walked past her without a word and entered the master bedroom to change into something less casual. Upon returning, Candy was seated on the couch. "How long will you be out?" she inquired. "I'm not sure," he replied. "Don't wait up for me. Goodbye." Grabbing his keys, he exited the house. She couldn't help but notice that he didn't kiss her or say he loved her as he always did when leaving. After seeing his car depart, she picked up the house phone and dialed Jake, unaware that their conversation was being recorded. "Jake, I think he suspects something," she confided. "What makes you think that?" Jake queried. "He wouldn't touch me at all," she explained. "He always gives me a kiss and says he loves me, but not today. He seemed distant and just left, mentioning a dinner appointment." "Really?" Jake responded. "Did he mention with whom?" "No, he didn't," she admitted. "Jake, what if he knows? What if he plans to leave me?" "Then so be it," Jake scoffed. "You can always stay with us. And as for Timmy boy, I'll keep him busy enough that he won't be home much." "But I don't want to lose him," Candy lamented. "I love him." "Yeah, your actions over the past couple of days really show that, don't they?" Jake retorted. "That's not fair, Jake," she protested. "I know what I did with you guys, and yes, I enjoyed it. But I still love him. I don't want to lose him." Sure, Jake dismissed her concern. "Let him cool off. Eventually, he'll come around. And if he doesn't, well, we can handle that too." "You're not going to hurt him, are you?" she worried. "Not explicitly," Jake assured her. "We'll just need to make him see things our way, and you'll play a part in that." "What?" Candy was taken aback. "That's right," Jake confirmed. "When the time comes, you'll help us make him understand. Remember where your loyalty lies. And remember, I have videos that could cause quite a scandal if they were to surface." "You wouldn't dare," Candy protested. "Oh, I would," Jake asserted. "I have footage from the camping trip and other compromising situations. You belong to me, so it's up to you to keep Timmy boy in line." Feeling trapped, Candy reluctantly agreed. "Okay, Jake," she conceded. "But please, don't hurt him." Jake smirked over the phone. Sure. He dismissed her concern, ending the call. Meanwhile, Tim arrived at the large 2-story home where John and Rose Carlson resided. He exited his car, bringing along the bottle of wine he had picked up on the way. John greeted him at the door, graciously accepting the wine. "Come on in, Tim," John welcomed him with a smile. "And thank you. It'll be put to good use tonight." Following John inside, Tim was introduced to Rose, who was waiting in the dining room with her lasagna. "Tim, this is my wife, Rose," John introduced. "Rose, meet Tim Burns, our new account representative." Tim shook Rose's hand as John opened the bottle of wine. "Nice to meet you, Tim," Rose greeted him with a smile. "Pleasure's mine, Mrs. Carlson," Tim replied. "Please, call me Rose," she insisted. "Mrs. Carlson sounds too formal." Seated at the table, Rose served up portions of lasagna while John poured the wine. Tim expressed his gratitude, acknowledging the delicious meal. "This is the best lasagna I've ever had," he complimented. "I'm pleased you enjoyed it," Rose remarked. "It's one of my specialties." "So, Tim, I don't mean to pry, but I'm curious why you left Jake so abruptly," John inquired. "Did something happen?" Tim nodded before elaborating. "Yeah, something happened," he admitted. "Please, Tim, share with us," Rose encouraged. Taking a moment to collect his thoughts, Tim recounted the events. "That's tough," John sympathized. "I can relate. I've been through something similar, though under different circumstances." "What's your plan now, besides changing jobs?" Rose asked. "I've consulted a lawyer and I'm filing for divorce," Tim revealed. "My attorney says it'll likely be an even split." "Have you considered counseling?" Rose suggested. "It's beyond that point," Tim responded. "I don't understand what's gotten into Candy. It's like she underwent a sudden transformation into someone I don't recognize." "How are you coping with all of this?" Rose inquired. "Not very well," Tim confessed. "My lawyer advises me to act normally around Candy, but it's challenging. I can't even bear to look at her." "Perhaps counseling could help," she suggested. "I might consider it," Tim acknowledged. "John is right. Rose is the best in the field," John interjected. "I believe she can assist you through this if you're open to it. Plus, it's covered in your benefits package." "That's a positive," Tim chuckled. "I'm serious," John assured him. "Rose was invaluable to me during a tough time. I'm confident she can support you too." Addressing Rose, John asked, "Can you fit him into your schedule?" "Absolutely," she confirmed. "I propose an hour per week. How does that sound, Tim?" After considering the offer, Tim agreed. "All right, I'll give it a try," he agreed. John smiled, patting Tim on the shoulder. "Good decision," he praised. "I'll ensure you have the necessary time for counseling. Coordinate with Rose and let me know your arrangement." "I will," Tim affirmed. "Thank you." "Now, if you don't mind, dear, Tim and I will adjourn to my office to discuss his new position," John announced. "Of course, I don't mind," Rose replied with a smile. "I'm excited to collaborate with you, Tim." "Thank you," Tim expressed as he stood with John. They proceeded to John's home office, where he poured them each a snifter of brandy. Over the next 2 hours, they hashed out details of Tim's new role. By the end of the discussion, Tim felt empowered, as though he were reclaiming control of his life. After shaking hands with John, Tim returned home. It was around 10 p.m. when he pulled into his driveway, noticing the lights were still on. He hoped Candy was alone. Entering the apartment, he found Candy on the couch. "How did your meeting go?" she inquired. "Very well, thank you," he replied. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to bed. Good night." Retreating to the second bedroom where his computer was, Tim began undressing. "Are you sleeping in here now?" Candy questioned from the doorway. "Yes," Tim confirmed. "I'm still not feeling well, so I'll sleep on the futon. Is that all right?" Sure, I suppose," she responded. "It's just that you've been away for 3 days, and I was hoping we could, spend some time together." "I'm not feeling up to it tonight," Tim stated. In truth, the thought of physical closeness with her made him uncomfortable. "Okay," she murmured softly. "Maybe tomorrow." "I'm not sure," he replied. "We'll see." Nodding, she turned away, pondering whether he knew anything about her recent activities. The next day, Tim arose before Candy, prepared his resignation letter, and brewed a cup of coffee. Seeing Candy's purse on the kitchen counter, he grabbed the audio recorder, then downloaded the previous day's phone call. He left the apartment without saying goodbye or expressing affection to Candy. As he departed, Candy heard the door close and lay in bed, tears streaming down her cheeks. Upon arriving at the office, Tim kept to himself. After exchanging greetings with his secretary, he retreated to his office and shut the door. While packing his belongings, Jake entered the room. "What's this?" Jake queried. Tim reached into his briefcase and extracted 2 envelopes. "One contains the signed contract from California," he explained, "and the other holds my resignation, effective immediately. I expect a bonus for securing the California account and my final pay, including my remaining vacation time." "Resignation?" Jake exclaimed, taken aback. "Why are you leaving? I need you," Jake protested. "Seriously?" Tim retorted. "You honestly don't know why? You think I'm naive? I'm not. Frankly, certain revelations have surfaced, compelling me to resign. I've secured a position with another company. I'll be leaving here shortly, then heading to HR." "Wait, Tim, can't we discuss this?" Jake implored. Tim shook his head. "There's nothing to discuss, Jake," Tim asserted. "I'm done. Finished. I once considered you a friend, but you betrayed me and ruined my marriage. Find someone else to deceive." "So this is about that?" Jake probed. "Just so you know, your wife willingly engaged in closeness with me," Jake divulged. "We don't need to let that ruin your career. Just go with the flow for now. Let Candy explore her desires. When she's done, she'll return to you." "You're despicable, aren't you?" Tim accused. "You expect me to accept that? By the way, how long have you been involved with her?" "The first time was during the camping trip," Jake confessed. "On the second day, while you and others were skiing. She initiated it in your tent, claiming I was superior to you. Then she begged me to have lovemaking with her. Remember when you suddenly sent me away to handle something at the office? You wanted me out of the way to be with my wife?" Tim realized. "Yeah, so what?" Jake shrugged, but Tim wasn't done. "And hiring her as a waitress at your party was just another ploy to sleep with her, right?" "Correct. So what?" Jake reiterated. Tim halted the audio recording he had secretly initiated when Jake entered. "Thank you for your confession," Tim declared. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm finished packing. I'll head to HR and I'll be on my way." "Wait," Jake protested. "You can't use that recording." "We'll see," Tim remarked. "I'm leaving. Goodbye, Jake. Rot in hell." "Wait, you forgot something," Jake said, holding up a photo of Candy from Tim's desk. "I didn't forget," Tim replied. "I don't want it. If you and your son are so keen on her, she's all yours. I'm done with both of you. Goodbye." With that, he exited the office, leaving Jake bewildered. How did Tim discover what had happened between Candy, him, and his son? Jake pondered. "What do you mean he resigned?" Candy demanded when Jake called. "He handed me a signed contract and a resignation letter and left," Jake explained. "He knows, Candy. I don't know how, but he knows." "What did you tell him?" she inquired. "The truth," Jake admitted. "I told him about the first incident on the camping trip." "You fool," she scolded. "And?" Jake prompted. "So I told him everything," Jake admitted. "He even left the photo of you he had on his desk." "Great," she sighed, tears streaming down her face. "What now?" she asked. "Not my concern," Jake shrugged. "He's your husband. Handle it. Unless you want me to come over and enlighten him." "No," she refused. "You've done enough. Thank you. Stay out of it." "I'll handle it or not," Jake said dismissively. After that, he ended the call. Candy glanced at her phone, tears streaming down her face. She dreaded the thought of divorce, but she understood Tim's stance on her infidelity. Determined to salvage their marriage, she sank onto the couch, her head in her hands, sobbing over her actions. A few minutes later, Tim arrived home. Spotting Candy's car, he scanned for Jake's vehicle but found none. Carrying his box and briefcase, he entered. He noticed Candy on the couch but said nothing as he headed into his office. After locking the door, he checked for voice recordings, found one of Candy's conversation with Jake, and promptly forwarded it to his lawyer. "Hello, Tim," she greeted when he called. "I've just received your latest email. I'm filing your paperwork now." "Good," Tim responded. "When can they be served?" "If you'd like, I can arrange for them to be delivered late this afternoon," she offered. "Will that work?" "It will. Thanks," he acknowledged. After hanging up, he retrieved his .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol from the weapon safe, more as a precaution than intent. In the kitchen, he placed it on the table. "We need to talk," he stated, setting the pistol down for quick access. "Is that necessary?" she questioned, pointing at the weapon. "I hope not," he replied. "Just a precaution in case your lover decides to show up." "My lover?" she queried. "Don't play coy," he retorted sternly. "Sit down, we have things to discuss." Terrified, she obeyed, uncertain of her husband's intentions. "Firstly," Tim began, "someone will serve you with papers later today." "Divorce papers?" Candy gasped. "Why? I don't want a divorce. I love you." "Bull," Tim countered. "I know about you and Jake, his son, and others you've been with lately, so I filed for divorce due to infidelity." "Infidelity?" she objected. "You have no proof." Tim smirked, revealing an envelope containing time-stamped photos showing her with multiple men, including Jake. "I also have video and audio," Tim added. "Interested?" She shook her head, realizing it was futile. "Good," he said. "Given the circumstances, I've been more than fair. No support. Half the bank funds split, each keeps their retirement, and you keep your belongings. I've canceled your credit card and have a check for your share. Also, a restraining order mandates you stay 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace. You have until being served to pack." "You're kicking me out?" she whimpered, tears flowing. "Essentially," Tim confirmed. "What if I contest?" she ventured. Tim chuckled. "Not wise," he cautioned. "Think of the consequences if these photos surfaced. Think about your job." "You wouldn't dare?" she protested. "Want to bet?" Tim challenged. Candy hesitated before admitting defeat. "No," she conceded. "I can't risk it. I need my job." "Exactly," Tim affirmed. "Two more things." "What?" she asked, despondent. "You'll return your rings and drop my surname," he demanded. "You've become heartless," she accused, removing her rings. "You gave me cause," Tim responded. "I just want to know one thing. What changed? From a loving, faithful wife to this?" She glanced down before speaking. "It happened the second day of the camping trip," she recounted. "You were out on the boat and I was in the tent. Jake came by and saw me. I had undressed and was laying there trying to rest when Jake walked into the tent. He seemed embarrassed at first, seeing me undressed like that. We started talking, and then he exposed himself, and that was it. So some guy with a bigger one than mine drops his pants and you're on it like white on rice," Tim remarked. "And that's all it took for you to become a cheating fancy woman. How many times did you sleep with him on that trip?" "Twice," she admitted. "The first time when you were out water skiing and the second time when Jake sent you back to the office." Tim shook his head and gestured at the photos. "I see that none of your lovers used any protection," he observed. "Weren't you worried about getting pregnant or contracting something?" "I'm still on the pill," she defended. "That doesn't eliminate the risks," Tim pointed out. "You could still get pregnant or contract a disease. Was that what you were aiming for?" "Oh God, no," she insisted. Tim shook his head. "You know, in all the time we've been together, I've been hit on a lot by women who look much better than you," he confessed. "I turned them all down because I believed I had a loving and faithful wife at home whom I'd never betray. But you? You didn't even consider the consequences. You didn't care about my feelings. All you wanted was pleasure. I hope it was worth it to you. Now pack your things. I expect you gone once you're served." "Tim, please," she pleaded. "Can't we get some counseling, please? I'll never do it again. I promise. Can't you forgive me this time?" "I will never forgive you for what you've done," Tim declared, his expression harder than she had ever seen before. "From the moment Jake dropped his trousers, you willingly betrayed me, and I can never forgive that level of betrayal." "But don't you love me enough to work through this?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, right now, I can't even look at you," he admitted. "The sooner you're out of my life, the better. Now start packing. Whatever you leave behind will be disposed of." Sobbing, she stood up and went into the master bedroom to pack. Tim watched as Candy brought out bags full of items. She stopped once and looked at him. "Can you at least help me take these to my car?" she requested. "Nope," Tim refused. "You're on your own. And remember, anything left behind will be discarded or donated." She carried the bags to her car and returned for more, exhausted. "I can't fit anything else," she admitted. "Can I return for the rest later?" "No," Tim reiterated. "You won't be allowed back. Ask your parents to collect your belongings, or I can hold off disposal for a few days." "Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that," she acknowledged. "Oh my God. I just thought, what will I tell my parents?" "Try the truth for a change," Tim suggested. "Tell them you cheated on me with my boss and others, and I had to ask you to leave." "Seriously?" she questioned. "They'll disapprove regardless," Tim asserted. "But it'll be worse if you lie or sugarcoat it. You know how they feel about dishonesty." At that moment, a knock sounded at the door. "I believe that's for you," Tim remarked. Candy approached the door cautiously and found a sheriff's deputy standing there. "Are you Candace Burns?" he inquired. She affirmed, "Yes, that's me." "May I see some ID, please?" he requested. She retrieved her driver's license and presented it to him. After verifying it, he returned it to her and handed her an envelope. "You've been served, ma'am," he informed her. "Additionally, there's a restraining order mandating you to vacate the premises immediately. You can sign the divorce papers now if you wish." She nodded and retrieved the divorce documents. After reviewing them, she asked for a pen and signed them. "I'll deliver this to the attorney," he assured her. "You need to leave now. If you attempt to return, you'll be arrested. Do you understand?" "Yes," she replied, tears streaming down her face. She glanced back at Tim. "I'm deeply sorry," she apologized. "Yeah, me too," Tim responded. "Goodbye." "Goodbye," she whispered as she departed. The deputy nodded at Tim before departing. The following days were chaotic for Tim. Candy made no attempts to contact him, but Jake left 2 threatening voicemails on the house phone. "Damn it, Tim, I know you're there," he yelled. "If you don't drop this lawsuit, I'm coming to kick your ass." Tim smirked, saved the voicemail, and forwarded it to Ruby, who notified the local sheriff's department. Candy's parents also called, asking if they could retrieve more of her belongings. "Sure, just make sure she's not with you. There's a restraining order against her," Tim informed them. "Okay, George," Candy's father sighed. When George and Candy's mother arrived, they collected her remaining items and urged Tim to reconsider the divorce. "Tim, she made a mistake. Can't you forgive her and take her back?" "She loves you," Candy's mother pleaded. "What did she tell you, Bernice?" Tim inquired. "She admitted to messing up with your boss," Bernice replied. "And that's all?" Tim pressed. "Yes, she didn't go into details, and we didn't pry," Bernice explained. Tim retrieved the envelope containing the photos and SD cards and showed them to Bernice and George. They were appalled by what they saw. "I had no idea it was this bad. I'm sorry, Tim. I don't blame you," Bernice expressed. George's anger was evident. "I'm going to have a serious talk with our daughter," he vowed. "Have you done anything else with these photos?" he asked Tim. Tim shook his head. "Not yet, but I warned her not to contest the divorce," he disclosed. They sympathized with him before finishing packing Candy's belongings. 30 minutes later, they bid Tim farewell with a warm hug and departed. Later that day, as Tim watched TV, another knock sounded at the door. Glancing through the peephole, he saw Jake, Mike, and 2 former colleagues. He retrieved his pistol from the weapon case, called emergency, and held the weapon behind his back. Barely opening the door before they barged in, he confronted them with the firearm. "We're going to smack you up," Jake threatened. Tim pointed the weapon at Jake, causing them to pause. "You really want to test me?" Tim challenged. "Just so you know, I've already called emergency, and the police are on their way. If you're here when they arrive, you'll be arrested for violating the restraining order," Tim warned. "Jake, he's serious," one of the men cautioned. Jake hesitated, then turned to Tim. Suddenly, they heard a siren nearby and saw flashing red and blue lights. "Yes, Jake, I mean it," Tim affirmed. As they turned to depart, 2 imposing uniformed police officers appeared at the door. Tim lowered his pistol. "Please, sir, put the weapon down," one officer instructed. Tim complied, placing the pistol on the kitchen counter. "Sir, these individuals are violating a restraining order," Tim explained. "They forcibly entered my apartment and issued threats. I request their arrest." "Do you have a copy of the order?" inquired the other officer. Tim nodded. "Yes, officer, I do," he replied, retrieving an envelope from the counter and handing it to the officer, who carefully examined the document. After a brief inspection, the officer returned the order to Tim and turned to the 4 men. "Turn around, hands behind your back," the officer ordered. The men glared at Tim as the officers handcuffed them and read them their rights. Once restrained, one officer addressed Tim. "Do you possess a license for that firearm?" he inquired. "Yes, I do," Tim confirmed. "Would you like to see it?" He then displayed his wallet, revealing the firearm license card and his NRA firearms training card. The officer nodded after inspecting the cards. "All right," he acknowledged. "Just be cautious with that weapon, understand?" "I understand, officer. Thank you," Tim acknowledged. The following 3 months passed swiftly for Tim. He found greater satisfaction working at Empire than he ever did under Jake's management. Weekly counseling sessions with Rose aided him in managing his trust and anger issues. Simultaneously, he joined a gym, exercising 3 days a week. Additionally, he enrolled in martial arts classes, primarily for mental discipline. Furthermore, he undertook a diet and exercise course recommended by Rose. The divorce proceeded smoothly, especially as Candy did not contest it. However, the alienation of affection lawsuits encountered some complications. While 2 of them were dismissed as Ruby had warned, the case against Jake took an unexpected turn. After reviewing evidence and financial disclosures, the judge ruled in Tim's favor, ordering Jake to pay $1 million in restitution. The judge expressed strong disapproval of Jake's actions. "Mr. Hudson, your conduct in this matter is utterly reprehensible," the judge admonished. "Not only did you exploit a man who considered you a friend, but you also mistreated your authority as his employer to deliberately ruin his marriage and family. Moreover, you repeatedly violated the restraining order against you. Therefore, I rule in favor of the plaintiff and order you to pay restitution in the amount of $1 million. Your Honor, this is highly irregular, Jake's lawyer interjected. Mr. Winthrop, this court finds Mr. Hudson's behavior not only irregular but absolutely despicable. The order stands, the judge affirmed. When must this restitution be paid? Winthrop inquired. Immediately, the judge declared. Unless, of course, your client prefers spending time in jail for contempt. No, Your Honor, my client will comply with the order, Winthrop conceded. Very well, the judge concluded. And may God help you if this check bounces. Case closed. With a gavel strike, the hearing concluded. Jake wrote a check, which his attorney passed to the bailiff. After the judge acknowledged the check, it passed to Ruby, who then handed it to Tim. To Tim's surprise, the check cleared the bank and he compensated Ruby her portion of the judgment. While employed at Empire, Tim was approached by several of Jake's clients. Word of the lawsuit had spread, and numerous businesses were hesitant to engage with someone who actively sought to wreck another man's marriage. They viewed such behavior as indicative of a lack of trustworthiness. Tim speculated that at the current rate, Jake would likely be out of business within a year. Throughout this period, Tim declined to date, despite being approached by several pleasant women at work. He considered himself married until the final decree was granted. Only then would he entertain the idea of pursuing a relationship. Upon receiving the final decree, Tim celebrated with colleagues, including a lap dance from a generously endowed stripper. A couple of months after the divorce was finalized, Candy's mother called Tim. Tim, it's Bernice. Can we talk for a few minutes? She asked. Of course, Bernice, he responded. What's on your mind? It's about Candy, she revealed. She's tested positive for HIV. I'm sorry to hear that, Bernice, Tim sympathized. But honestly, I'm not surprised. Besides, we're officially divorced now, so there's little I can do. She's not covered by my insurance, and I'm not responsible for her. I understand, Bernice acknowledged. I was hoping you could spare a few minutes to talk to her. I suppose I can, though I'm unsure of its benefit, he conceded. Thank you so much, Bernice expressed her gratitude. Tim drove to Bernice and George's residence and was taken aback by Candy's gaunt appearance. She approached him, but he gestured for her to remain seated. With a heavy heart, she complied, inviting him to sit on the couch. You're looking well, Tim, she remarked. Better than I remembered. How have things been for you? Things have been good, Candy, he replied. New job, new friends, and a fresh perspective on life. How about you? Not great at all, she confessed. You know about my HIV status? That's what your mother informed me, he confirmed. I'm sorry to hear that, but frankly, I'm not surprised. Do you know when you contracted it? He inquired. I believe it was during one of my encounters at Jake's, she admitted. I engaged in unprotected lovemaking with multiple partners that day. Does Jake know? Tim questioned. She shook her head. Not yet, she admitted, but I'll have to inform him so he can get tested. I doubt he'll take it well. No, probably not, Tim agreed. Listen, Tim, I want to apologize to you one last time. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me for what I've done to you. I now realize the devastation my actions caused. I could have declined at any point, but I didn't. I was foolish and selfish, allowing my desires to override my better judgment, and now I'm facing the consequences. You were the best husband and lover I could have asked for, and I squandered it all for a fleeting pleasure. I know you despise me, and you have every right to, but I don't want to depart this world without your forgiveness. Tim pondered her words carefully. It was the first time she took ownership of her actions and acknowledged their impact on others. Though he could continue holding a grudge, he remembered his sessions with Rose. Grudges wouldn't help him move forward. With a nod, he responded. All right, Candy, he said. I forgive you. She burst into tears as she sat in her chair. Tim contemplated embracing her, but decided against it when she waved him away. Thank you so much, Tim, she said, tears welling in her eyes. That means more to me than you know. Listen, I want you to find a woman you can love and trust. Marry her and have children with her. I'm done. I'm finished. But you have your whole life ahead of you and you deserve to be happy. Thank you, he replied. I'll do that. And if you ever want to just talk, let me know, okay? She nodded, wiping away her tears. I will, Tim, she assured him. Thank you for coming over and talking with me. I've missed you so much these last few months. I've missed the woman I married, Tim said calmly. How are things with Jake and Mike, by the way? She shook her head. Not good, she admitted. He's gotten very abusive lately. He didn't take losing to you in court very well. You probably know his business has taken quite a hit lately. I've noticed, Tim acknowledged. Has he hurt you physically? Not yet, but he's very volatile, she replied. Do you want me to be with you when you tell him about your diagnosis? Tim offered. No, but thanks for asking anyway, she declined. This is my responsibility and I need to handle it. You know, I keep thinking that if I had just told him to leave that first day at the camping trip, we'd still be together. That's quite possible, Tim conceded. But I have a feeling it would have happened at some point anyway. He'd been after you for quite a while. I think you're right, she agreed. Listen, I'm getting really tired, and I need to rest before I go back. Thank you for coming over. It really does mean more to me than you know. You're welcome, Candy, he said. And remember, call me if you just want to talk or something, okay? She weakly nodded. I will, she promised. Goodbye, Tim, she added. Think of me every once in a while, okay? He sensed a hint of finality in her words and wondered if she was contemplating self-destruction. I will, he assured her. Just don't do anything foolish, okay? She managed to smile. I won't, she assured him. As he stood and headed for the door, Bernice approached him. Thank you, Tim, she said, embracing him. This means more to her than you know. And to me as well. You're welcome, Bernice, he replied. Keep an eye on her, okay? I will, Bernice promised. A couple of weeks later, Tim was seated on his couch having dinner and watching the evening news when a report caught his attention. The bodies of a local businessman, his son, and a woman believed to be the man's lover were found earlier today in what police believe was a double homicide and self-destruction, the anchors reported. Jacob Hudson, president and founder of Hudson Consulting, along with his son and an unidentified woman, were discovered dead. All three suffered weapon shot wounds. Police are investigating the incident, and further details will be provided as they become available. After overcoming his initial shock, Tim phoned Bernice. She answered the call in tears. Bernice, what's happening? He inquired. We just learned that Candy is dead, she replied. It appears that Jake shot her, then his own son and himself. Oh my God, Tim exclaimed. I saw a report on the news and was hoping it wasn't her. I'm so sorry. It's her, Bernice confirmed. Do the police have any idea why it happened? Tim inquired. They're not entirely certain, she explained. But I believe she told Jake about her HIV diagnosis, and he snapped. Autopsies are underway. I'm truly sorry, Bernice, Tim expressed. I want you to know I never wished for this. I understand, Tim, she responded. Candy made her own choices and faced the consequences. Nonetheless, losing an only child is devastating. I take comfort in thinking she's in a better place now. Well, if there's anything I can do, please let me know, he offered. Thank you, Tim, she acknowledged. Candy's memorial service occurred a couple of weeks later, and Tim took time off to support her parents. According to the autopsies, both Jake and Mike were HIV positive, like Candy. Based on police findings, Candy disclosed her diagnosis to Jake, suggesting they get tested. Upon discovering they were also positive, Jake fatally shot her, then his son, and ultimately himself. Tim mourned Candy's pass away for a few days, reminiscing about their happier times together. Then, unexpectedly, Cynthia Stone, another colleague, visited him. Hey, cowboy, she greeted. Want to join us for happy hour tonight? You seem like you could use some company. Tim hesitated briefly, almost declining, but reconsidered. What the heck? He responded. I could use some good company right now. Sure, count me in. Great, then meet us at the hitching post after work, okay? She suggested, smiling. I'll be there, he confirmed. Thanks for the invitation. As she walked away, he contemplated the cycle of life. Then he heard a familiar female voice in his mind. Go for it, big boy. She's into you, the voice suggested, surprising him. He scanned the surroundings but found no one. A shiver ran down his spine momentarily. No, he thought to himself. That can't be possible. Or can it?